Hi everyone. This is the final chapter of this semester that we're working on, and this is your final project. It is writing a resume and job application letter. And I know that many of you have lots of work world experience. Some of you do not. We have a wide range of students in these classes that I'm teaching. However, we'll be picking up some tips that you may not know, and if you have a resume already, you'll be tweaking it for this class. If not, you'll be creating one. So this is writing a resume and job application letter. So let's look at the rhetorical situation first of a resume and job application letter. And of course, there's also a thank you letter. I don't need you to write a thank you letter. I would like to see one letter rather than two, plus the resume. So the purpose. Remember, there are 5 parts of the rhetorical situation. The purpose is to argue that you are the best qualified candidate for the position to which you are applying. So, like the past 2 papers, this project is also an argument. As I've discussed in the semester, we've written in many genres, and the only one that wasn't really an argument was your literacy narrative. And all of the others have had some element of argument. The summary part was not, because you were supposed to summarize the article. But other than that, everything has had some argumentative components. The audience, who is reading this resume? What is the company, facility, group, or organization looking for in a candidate specifically? What are the values, ideals, principles of that company or organization? And how can you match your qualifications to that audience? So every time you send out a resume, that's what you're thinking with that particular company you're applying to. Even if you're sending mass resumes that have very little differentiation between them, your letter that you attach will generally always have a little bit of differentiation because of the place that you're sending it to. The genre is obviously a letter and a resume. The stance is, how do you want to come across to your audience? Should you sound eager, polite, or ambitious? Should you sound excited or serious? How is the tone? Of course, the tone will always be reasonable, but there are many different tones that you can incorporate as well, especially into the letter. And then media and design. Are you applying for a more creative job? Perhaps the resume design can match that. Is it a more serious job? Then think more seriously in the design. And you are attaching them as files to me in MS Word or as PDFs, but you will also eventually, of course, email resume and letters to potential employers, or you will submit them to places like Monsters, or Indeed, or any other number of job search engines. So ATS, what does ATS stand for? It stands for Applicant Tracking System. And such systems are robotic. They're designed to rank applicants for jobs based on keywords. They're artificial intelligence that appear in resumes. These keywords usually match the description in the job posting. So if you're looking for a specific job, match the words in the posting to the words in your resume and letter. And one way to do so, as the book describes, is paste the job posting into a website that generates word cloud. And I've given you a few examples. I actually went to these websites: edwordle.net, worditout.com, and jobscan.com. The first 2 are really just word clouds, but the second one actually has resume samples and other tips on how to make yourself stand out as an applicant. And so you have this word cloud generated, like in our book, and then use the largest words generated to appear in your letter and resume, because that's what specifically they're looking for in a candidate. So if you use those words, they'll stand out. So that's the purpose of word cloud, because of the ATS system. Okay, let's think about social media. As we all know, some companies search your social media account, so be careful with what is posted publicly. And if you have LinkedIn, the book suggests you emphasize volunteer or charity work as well as positions that you're interested in. So LinkedIn is, if you don't know exactly what it is, it's the sort of social media site that's to connect with other people in your field or who you know regarding your work and work experience. So it's not really about your social life. It is a part of social media, but it's more about your work life. Okay, there are 4 different kinds of resumes, and you can pick any one of these to use, or you can one of the first 3, or you can pick the combination, which incorporates ideas of all of them. So the first one is chronological, and that lists all your academic and work experience from the most recent to the, not to the earliest in your life, sorry, to, yes, to the earliest. So from the most recent, working backwards to the earliest. Another way to write a resume is a targeted resume, which announces a specific goal beneath your name. Not exactly right beneath your name. It won't be your name, goal, then address. It will be your name, address, email, phone number, then your goal. And then the resume offers selective information based on that goal. A third way is a functional resume, which is organized around various kinds of experiences. And the targeted resume and the functional resume don't necessarily have to include dates. And that way, if there are big gaps of dates that you don't have work experience, you could create your resume that way. And finally, a combination resume is the one which most people go with. It incorporates features from various types of resumes. So that way you can have some chronological things, some targeted things, and some functional things in your resume. Other key features of resumes: they should be succinct, usually 1 page only. And if you have a resume already and your resume is more than 1 page, for me, I just want you to pare it down to 1 page. I only want to see 1 page. That's what I'm going to partially be grading on, is that it doesn't run into the second page, because we have limited time now that we're in the last week of class. So I just want to be able to scan your 1 page of resume. And the design needs white space, bold print in some places. It needs to have easy to read font. And headings, it should look presentable and professional. So what should you include? Define your objective first. Are you looking for a particular job, or are you preparing a general chronological resume for many jobs in a specific field, or even in any field? If you're coming out with a general education degree and you're looking for a job in almost anything within business, then your resume might be more general. But if you are a medical professional and you're working for a job specifically as an X-ray technician, then your resume might be much more specific. Your contact information should be centered at the top with your name in larger print than your address, phone, and email. You could also include your LinkedIn profile if you have one. Highlight your academic experience and education. Start with your most recent education and work backward. Talk about honors you have received. And then with work experience, list your most recent jobs first and work backward. Now, some of you, I don't know how old you guys are because we haven't been in person, but generally they only want the past 10 years or so. Maybe a little more than that, depending on your age and your experience. So if you have more than 10 years of work experience, you don't need to go back to your very first job. Just include 10 years. Use verbs that are very specific and active, and in the present tense if you are still at the job, or past tense if you are not there anymore. What did you do in this job or continue to do that is relevant to the prospective employer? What will stand out to them? You should not write in full sentences in the resume, and we'll talk about that more later. potential verbs to include in your resume are listed on the next page. So the next page is slide 8, and you can pause here and look at all of these verbs and come back to them when you're constructing your resume so that you can pick particular verbs that fulfill the purpose and the objective of your resume and what you did in your particular jobs. So let's take a look. So here are the action verbs that you can use. And obviously there are many more. This is just a small grouping, although it is, 5 columns wide of different verbs that fit into actually different types of categories. So if you have financial experience, look at the financial column. If you have teaching experience, look at the help/teach column. Everyone could look in the achievement column because in your resume, you talk about what you achieved at that particular workplace. So anyway, here are some action verbs you can always go back to. More things to include in your resume: community service or volunteer activities. List the skills you developed that are suitable for your audience. And then finally, other interests and abilities. These are usually confined to things that will benefit the job to which you are applying. So as the book says, if you are an avid team sports player and played team sports in high school and or anywhere else, you can emphasize the value of teamwork, etc., by including that fact. But if you're looking for a job that's very individualistic, you may not want to include that you were in team sports. So the kinds of interests and abilities should be limited to what job you're looking for. And then final thoughts. Proofread and edit very carefully. There is no need to list references on a resume, as the job interviewer will ask later. Consider key design elements as mentioned earlier, using font, bullets, bold, and white space. Do not use complete sentences, but make sure all verbs are grammatically parallel. That means that all verbs are in the present tense if you are still at the job, and past tense if you were at the job in the past. For example, I just made these up. Say you're still at a job in a business firm, and you're working as an intern. And here's what you say. Produce, and you're continuing that job. Produce 10 copies of document each year. Incorporate documents into database. Create Excel spreadsheets for all senior managers. Maintain connections with all firm partners. If you were at that job in the past, produced 10 copies of document each year, incorporated documents into database, created Excel spreadsheets for all senior managers, maintained connections with all firm partners. So those would be ways to write out what you do or what you did in that particular job. And next is a job application letter. That comes first. The letter too is an argument. It does not need that much information and should be only 1 page. It is a claim that you are the best candidate for the position. You support your claim with a few brief reasons and evidence. However, you do not want to merely regurgitate everything from the resume onto the letter. Use different words and complete sentences, of course. You should have at least a couple of paragraphs. You should model what the letter looks like. And let me find the exact page in our book. We are in chapter 22. And we see an example of a job application letter on page 274. And that sample has 3 paragraphs. You can have 2 paragraphs. You should have more than 1. You should have more than just 1 paragraph centered in the middle of your page. Following along with all of those ideas will be important. Where you put your address and date, then you put the name and address of the organization to which you're applying. And let me move forward here. Then after that, you write a salutation, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. So what are the key features of job application letters? They are succinct indications of your qualifications. You need to make clear why you are interested in the position first, and then give a sense of why a job interviewer should meet you. They use a reasonable, pleasing tone that plays up your ethos. You want your audience to believe that you're trustworthy. They use a conventional business format. They are focused on a position, so you need to focus on something specific. And they use a salutation or greeting that is as specific as you can possibly find. And if in this class you are writing a fictional letter to a fictional company or organization, then you can write a fictional name as the person to whom you are applying. Just make it up, okay? It doesn't have to be real. But going back to the salutation in the application letter on page 274 in our book, after the two addresses, we have Dear Ms. Jeremiah. That's the kind of salutation or greeting that specifically you want to write. You want to apply to someone as specific as possible. You just don't want to say, Dear person in charge, or to whom it may concern. In today's day and age, you can look up the person to whom you're really applying. And then finally, proofread carefully. So the 3 paragraphs are pretty short on page 274. Let me just read a few sentences from the main body paragraph to relate to you the importance of the tone and the argument. My grasp of public relations goes beyond the theories I have learned in the classroom. I applied those theories last summer at Landis & Landis, the Springfield public relations firm, where I was responsible for organizing 2 charity events that drew over 200 potential donors each. So what she did in those 2 sentences is she connected the fact that she learned theories in the classroom, but then applied those to what she did in a particular job that should help her as experience in this particular job that she's applying to. She says, since Jeremiah Enterprises focuses on nonprofit public relations, my experience, training, and initiative will allow me to contribute to your company's public relations team. So that sort of cements her as the best candidate for the position. Both of these you should remember to proofread carefully for grammar and any errors. So anyway, that is resumes and job application letters. Keep all of these ideas in mind as you move forward. And you can always go back to slide 6 or 7, I believe it is, one of those 2, that has the list of verbs that you can use in your resume. Okay, everybody, bye-bye.